translated as delight or pleasure. We don't have to play around with English words. Tanug. Now, it's important to give a little bit of Akdama, so we'll understand what the Mechaber is saying. And then we'll follow up a little bit more, see this. but the basic mahalach in all of this is shared by all the tzaddikim. So, what I said a moment ago is that we're moving from ratzon, will, desire, to the more pnimi, inner aspect or bechina of keser, which is tanug. The ratzon of a person, when a person wants something, it's because he anticipates some pleasure or desire by having it. So the koach hameniya, that koach which fuels a person's will, is tanug, is delight and pleasure. In other words, let's say a person has a ratzon to take upon himself a certain project. He's taken upon himself a certain project to do something. And in order to accomplish that, the person has to work very, very hard, make lots of phone calls and invest time and money. What's mistater, what's hidden behind all of that work and that will and drive and motivation to undertake that project and to accomplish that which he set out to accomplish, underneath all of that is the hope that he will have a tanug, that he will have pleasure and delight from all of mikol amalai, from all of the hard work that he put into this. So, in the actual effort that he's making, what you only see really is the ratzon. For instance, the simplest example, a person wants to build a house. So we find this moshel in a lot of this stuff. A person wants to build a house. And it requires a tremendous amount of time and money and so on, and hard work, and he's involved himself, let's say, even in some of the physical labor. So we understand that b'shas ma'aseh, when he's working and he's buying and handling with the architect and the contractors and all of that, b'shas ma'aseh, what we see really is the ratzon. We see his will to build this house. That's what we see. His will to build this house. That's all that we could really see. But what is the delek? What is the gas? What's the fuel? What's the fuel that causes this ratzon to burn? This burning ratzon. That right now, this burning ratzon is the plumbing has to get done. We need 3/4 inch, not half inch. It needs 3/4 inch. Well, this ratzon today, on this project of taking care of the plumbing, the delek behind it is the anticipated tanug of finally the time will come when he's going to be able to sit in his house and he'll be able to turn on a faucet and he'll be able to enjoy being in this house that he first thought of. Could be a year or two of an HSL, could be 5-6 years before he thought of this. That sipui, that anticipation for the tanug, b'sof shel davar, for that tanug to be enjoyed, is the spark or is the fuel that gives energy to the ratzon to take care of this and to do this job and to spend this money, the ratzon is much louder. In other words, he's not thinking about when he's on a regular day on the project. He's out there at the site of the house. He's not thinking about at that moment. He's not thinking about being in the living room when it's done. That's not what his thoughts are. His thoughts are we have to meet the deadline. I have to get this done. We already ordered the tiles. It's not. He's not thinking about sitting in the dining room, in the kitchen. He's not thinking about that. But underneath all of this, or the pneumius of this rotzen that he has to get these tiles in today, the pneumius of that rotzen is, a deeper level of that rotzen is, the anticipated time, the anticipated delight and pleasure of having what it is that he wants. Therefore, when you see the terms pneumius hakesa, the tanug is pneumius hakesa, rotzen is chitzonius hakesa. Rotzen is carrying it out, the day-to-day ordering, building, spending. That's the rotzen, and you can use any example that you like, but that's the rotzen. But the pneumius of keser is a kol d'mamadaka. It's a very quiet little thing inside your head. It's what keeps us staying up nights without kids, and the carpools and all of that. You might get a taste of that tanug every now and then, like the kid brings some good report card, or you're standing under the chuppah and you actually are pleased with the shidduch. Maybe even the b'chatan were okay. That's already very, very unusual. But you're pleased. And now there's like this tanug of, oh, that's why I did carpool. Mm-hmm. That's why, and the boys, if it's a boys who ben Torah and the girls a nice bas Torah, it's nistik a nice bas Torah. This is now in English they'll call the dividends, the payoffs, these terms. The tanug, that pleasure, was the machshava tchila. It's the soif ma'aseh, it's machshava tchila. The tanug is now you're having some of this tanug, but really it was there all along behind the scenes, telling the person, go, stay with this kid. Do the right thing. Go to the parenting seminar. Talk nice to your kid. Do this, do that, whatever it is. All those millions of things that go into raising that kid. There are a million ritzinas, but the underlying pneumius of that keser, of that will, is the anticipated delight of, it turned out to be a nice guy, an Elech Yid. That's Yeshamayim. And really, that's the fuel, that's the delic, the gasoline, the fuel that's in the pneumius of all of those millions of ritzinas. But b'shas ma'aseh, you really just feel the rotzen. Yeah, the tanug is a kol d'mamadak. It's a quiet little voice in the background. But you don't realize it. That quiet little voice is that keeps the car moving. It keeps the ritzinas. It keeps the motivation. The anticipated tanug. Now, of course, we can talk all about that in the context of the nefesh and avodas Hashem. But that's just by way of hakdama to understand the simple pshat and why tanug is a deeper level, or pneumius hakesser, as opposed to rotzen, which is chitzonius hakesser. Now let's read a little bit inside. Again, this Chashav Rosh Hashiva brings down much more from the Gra and from the Ramchal. It's not really from the Chassidus, but maybe now and then. But we'll fill in with some of that. But the general Mahalch is the same all this far. Einig Kosav Hagra, page pay out. Kosav Hagra. The Goyin Schusinai writes, Shakol ha'einig sheyesh l'odam shorashoy ba'einig ha'elyon. All possibility of oneg that a human being can experience, the shorish of that is in a higher oneg. Is the oneg is that higher, sublime oneg above. Now, what does that mean? This nakuda hapnimis that a person feels a matzav of oneg, of delight, of deep delight and pleasure. That will be felt when the person is actually fulfilling what he wanted to fulfill. Then he'll feel the tanug. Again, the tanug is behind all of that, the hope for that tanug. But the tanug will be felt like the parents by the chuppah, hopefully, or by some other milestone, where you have that feeling that, oh, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted. But what you're not thinking about is that's why I wanted this. I wanted this in order to be able to come to this oneg. That's why I wanted it. So behind the wanting is the hope for that oneg. Now, what we've been learning about in the Ayeka Chabura on Erev Shabbos is that, of course, by a Jew, the deepest oneg is what the Ramchal writes about at the very beginning of Mesilas Yesharim, is L'saneg al Hashem. And that's what makes us the most driven, motivated people on earth. Except a lot of us don't know why we're so driven and what is it that's motivating us. And because of that, we could substitute in our minds and in our lives, we could substitute the shorish of that ratzon, the true tanug that I want, with something cheap and silly. That's what we're learning about in Hayeka Chabura. So then that feeling that you have is a feeling of, this is not it, Zeloza. This is not, I'm not getting the pleasure that I was hoping I would get. Now, as I undertook this project of saving whales, I'm just giving you some example that made me laugh some years ago when I heard about it. So I'm a Jew that's running this organization to help whales. I'm not saying I have anything against those creatures, Hashem's creatures, but you understand. I'm talking about the narishkeit of it. So I am taking upon myself to this unbelievable idealistic thing to help whales. So in that there's an anticipated tanug of contributing to the whale population somehow, saving the whale population, and as a result of that, there are a million mitzvahs of raising money, making calls, and putting out articles and social networking, all that to help the whales. The problem, and a non-Jew can have unbelievable pleasure from that. The problem with the Jew is that at the end of the day, hanefesh lo temalei. So here I am, and I have pictures of myself with like the most famous whales, and Donald Trump, and I have this great picture, and I'm the guy that saved the whales. So of course, what he was hoping would come from that, the tanug can never match that tanug of the whales. Could never match the tanug ha'elyon of why his neshama was created. Again, part of what his life is about is to help some. So there's a mitzvah to help animals too, and to help. That's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But of course, he set it up as his keser, his crown, and that's what I was talking about last week. Matar et sevachim. The keser is what do you want in your life. So he set this up as the keser of his life, and the keser of a Jew's life is only what we say by Musaf. Keser yitnu l'cha Hashem Elokeinu. Keser yitnu l'cha Hashem Elokeinu. And anything that is now, if he would somehow tie this in through his learning of Torah and his rebbeim helped him, that this is a project that he could help the Baruch Shalom in his with his world, and it's tied into his avodas Hashem, it could be something very, very chashuv. But independent of Elokus, a Jew can't have that tanug ha'elyon, and that's the first sentence in the Mesilas Yesharim. After he says, and then the Ramchal sets out that the whole tachlis is l'hisaneg al Hashem. L'hisaneg al Hashem. Now, we're going to talk next week, or maybe 2 weeks, and then maybe next week, about emunah. Emunah, which is, of course, the shorish, which is the pnimius of Kesser, which is emunah. Belief in Hashem, faith in Hashem, trust in Hashem. She says, the only true oneg can be felt when a person is fulfilling his ratzon. Now again, this guy could feel very good because he had a ratzon to help the whales. Now he feels good because he accomplished something. So, but that's not the tanug ha'elyon. Now for him, with his limited view of Torah mitzvahs, and he might not even think that he believes in God, he could call himself an atheist. So that's for him his tanug ha'elyon. But in Pnimius, a Jew can't really get from that ultimate tanug, but he could use it as a substitute. That's what people do. Look again. Kashiyesh Adam Shemod Dovak, the Rav Tzadik v'Tamachochem, Rabba Muvak. So let's say the relationship that a person has, the excitement that a person has being by a tzaddik, having a connection to a tzaddik, to his Rebbe, to a tzaddik. And when he's by the tzaddik, this person feels tremendous oinig being in the presence of a tzaddik. And all of us who have had that wonderful experience knows that that's something which is indescribable. Indescribable. Just remember as a kid being in Moshe Feinstein's apartment and watching him learn Mishnayos. Just being in that, or being in the apartment of the Satmar Rebbe School. One of these memories that I have is that you don't know how to put it into any words, but there's a tanug, a murdika oinig that a person has, being in the presence of such a person. Umargish oinig udvekes atzumim. Hine mashu margish agoshes oinig bizman shehusa etzel harav. So this oinig that he feels when he's with the tzaddik, he's with his Rebbe, with the tzaddik. Because there is this satisfaction, where there is this meeting of what I really have wanted all of my life, and without necessarily thinking about it, knowing it, it's this oneg of being connected to holiness, to the tzaddik, is this oneg that is behind all these decisions that I make, like to get up every morning and to go daven and to learn, and to put on tefillin, and to listen to the shofar. That there's this mysterious oneg behind all of that, and then when you're with the tzaddik, who's the tzaddik is that embodiment of what a Jew can be. When you see that tzaddik, when you're in the presence of that tzaddik, you feel this is what I'm working. This is what my life is all about. This is what I'm working for. This is what I'm working towards. This is what it is. Sharei tachlis v'tzon shel adam, the tachlis of the person's ratzon, ukama sheyosh l'schaber l'rabo, l'chein kashu, he wants more and more to have this connection to the tzaddik, l'chein kashu b'pol nimtza etzel rabo, and therefore when he's actually there in the presence of his Rebbe, he's together with his Rebbe, u'makal b'menu hasagis, and he's receiving from the Rebbe, he's learning, he's watching, he's hearing, and so on. Then he's able to come into contact with the shorish of his ratzon. Remember, the shorish of his ratzon is that anticipated tanug. The shorish of his ratzon, the root of what he wants. And now this is tremendous oneg, because this is why I've wanted all of these things, is to be able to have this moment with the tzaddik, because then you feel the closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you never felt before. Machmas milui haratzon, because the ratzon has been fulfilled. The same way you've been working on building this house for years and years, but from the time that you first had the plan, and you sat down with the architect, and then all of the hours and all of the money and all of the effort that went into building this house, and now you're sitting on the couch, or you're sitting in your study, and you're looking around, and you have your shelves, and you have your desk, and that's the oinig, because the ratzon that you had has been fulfilled, and that is the onig that was driving you to have this ratzon. That you wanted to be able to sit in a nice, quiet study, and to finally have this kind of a setup, and to sit down and to open up my Gemara and to learn in this place. Imkain hargoshas haoneg novaz mikiyum haratzon hasharashi v'odem. So that ratzon that you have was all because you wanted to come to that final place where you were going to have this tanug. Therefore, if a person is zeicher, that he's able to identify that the keser of his life is Torah and mitzvahs. Yiddishkeit. That's his crown. Not to save the whales, not to win the Olympics, not to cash in on the Super Bowl or something, but the Keser Elyon of this person's life is Torah and mitzvahs. That's the Keser Elyon. לכן כשיש אדם שיצטרך להגיע לזה, שיש לו רצון שורשי מאוד בתורה, כגון עצה גדולי התורה וכדומה, הרי שנקודת העונג הגדולה ביותר שלהם, these people, for whom Keser HaTorah is their life, they believe in that, Keser HaTorah, the Keser is Torah, the greatest honor that they could have. It's the greatest honor that they could possibly have. Is that Esek HaTorah. There's a new understanding of this Taisus. A beautiful Sfas Emes, whatever it is. Why does this person feel such an unbelievable delight? It's not just because it's intellectually stimulating and exciting. That's part of it. But we're talking about a person whose learning of Torah is because it's Hashem's Torah. And the Keser that he's looking for is to connect to Hashem through Limud Torah. So that for this person, because when he's learning Torah, could be he's busy 12 hours a day on a job somewhere. He drives a truck 12 hours a day. And he has his half hour learning. That's all he can do. He has a half hour to learn. But the tonic of that half hour is beyond words. Because even though he's got to work for 12 hours, he has to become a parnasa, which is a mitzvah, and it's a choshev thing that he's doing that. But the tonic, the rotzen hasharashi, why is it for this person who the keser is Torah, is Yiddishkeit, why is it that he works 12 hours a day to raise a Jewish family? And what's the point of raising a Jewish family? Again, like last week, Matar said. So when it comes down to the final question is, I want to have a connection to the Borei Olam. So the half hour of this guy sitting down and learning after a hard day of driving the truck, he sits down with it, he opens up a sefer, that's the Rosh Hashirashi. All I was working for was this. Was to be able to have this half hour. That's all I was working for. That's all I want. That's the shurish of all my ritzaynus. Which you see that by the tzaddikim, by the very clear by the tzaddikim. The Indian with learning Torah, it's not a second or third or fourth. It's the keser of who they are. It's the keser of their lives. Nemela higiu lahagashas onig mufla. Nemela, during those times when the person is sitting and learning, the person for whom learning is the keser of their lives, that's the deepest possible pleasure and delight that they could experience. Is that onig of being able to learn. He brings a famous thing on the bottom in Zion, footnote Zion. The famous story of the Ger Tzedek by the Vilna Gaon, who's buried right next to the Vilna Gaon, the Graf Petotsky. We know that the Vilna Gaon told the Ger Tzedek that he could use, the Vilna Gaon knew a name of Hashem that he could use, one of Hashem, that he would be able to use to free him from prison. But the Ger Tzedek did not agree to using the Shem Hashem for that. He was burned alive, and he wanted to die al Kiddush Hashem. So this is what I'm talking about. This in halacha, like what about saving your life? And the Goyen gave you a way out. So what about that? And so on. I'm not going to go into that right now. Which I mentioned last week, but the Sfarim talk about the Tanya, all the Sfarim talk about, that for this Ger Tzedek, the greatest anticipated Tanug that he could imagine was being able to Moise Nefesh al Kedushas Hashem. Again, without going into the halacha. That was the greatest thing that he could possibly imagine and look forward to. And all the changes that he made in his life, which were monumental and caused him to be a nirda from the Malchus and everything, all those changes that he made in his life were leading up to this moment of being able to be burned al Kiddush Hashem, to be killed al Kiddush Hashem. משום שהוא הגיע לנקודת חיבור עליון ברצון שלו, שכל רצון השורשי הוא להידבק בהשם יתברך. Because the deepest ratzon of this Ger Tzedek was Dveikus B'Hashem. And since the earlier part of his life he lived in a very, very non-holy way, so there's no question that contributed to the intensity of this feeling of wanting to repair all that was in the past. I have other stories about Tshuva and so on in B'Sirus Nefesh. L'chein nischar b'etzem nekudas haratzon nekudas ha'onik. So the nekudas haratzon, so for him, dying al Kiddush Hashem was not something that was painful. It was not something which was hard. It was the oinig. It's hard for us to relate to that, but in our minds. But that was the greatest onig, was to be able to give up his life. L'man Shemai. She'rotzen v'ha'onig ha'gedolim b'yoseh shelo hayu lomus l'man Shemai Yisborach. Because there was no higher ratzon and no greater hope for any tanug on earth than the ultimate Dveikus B'Hashem. And the ultimate Dveikus B'Hashem is that moment of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Which was exactly what Rabbi Akiva told his Talmidim when that was happening to him. And what the Sfar HaKadoshim are talking about, that B'Shas Ma'aseh, as I mentioned last week, the B'Shas Ma'aseh, when a person is killed, when a person dies like Hashem, he does not feel any pain at all. Because that tanug of that dveikus is so overwhelming that whatever the physical pain is, the aura of his neshama, which has now been completely revealed all the way to the point of firm ratzon, einig, all the deepest amun, yichidish shebenefesh, so that aura of his neshama completely overtakes and erases whatever the guf is going through. So when the tzaddikim were revealed to us that when a person is killed al Kiddush Hashem, it doesn't hurt. And everybody said, oh, come on, it doesn't hurt. How do you know it doesn't hurt? Did it happen to you? It doesn't hurt. So anybody who asks that question is asking you from that point of the intellect, which can't comprehend that the greatest possible tanug of the Ger Tzedek was Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. But it was. And then how do you explain countless Jews through history that didn't even know that was their ratzon? You ask them what their ratzon was to save a whale, or to build a house. Oh, but B'Shas Ma'aseh, they also died al Kiddush Hashem. Every one of our soldiers, every one of the Chevra that was killed. That I believe B'Amunah Shleima, there was at that moment, or that split second, or that split of a split second, whatever it was, that they were brought into that world of the Tanakh Elyon, of Dveikus B'Hashem, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Even though this person might not have been religious entire life. Without going into the discussion among the poskim about what does it mean to, how do we define a Kaddish? There is discussion about that. I'm not saying it's the absolute consensus of all poskim, but if a person is killed because he's a Jew, which is exactly what we're talking about, he's killed because he's a Jew, so there's a very strong case made by the poskim that's called Kiddush Hashem. This, of course, was a huge discussion and it became very heated. And obviously, many people were very sensitive to this conversation between the poskim after the Holocaust, especially when there were some who joined in who were not survivors of the Holocaust, which caused a lot of anger on the part of many survivors. And I remember these conversations going on when I was a kid. But there were people who were not in the Holocaust, who were living in America, and who said that those who were killed in the gas chambers did not die al Kiddush Hashem. You can imagine that did not make people happy. So, all right, their answer to that is, I'm not writing the tshuvas and halach to make you happy. I'm trying to get to the truth. To say this, so there's a big shock of Italian in that subject of what's called who's a Kaddish. What does it mean to be killed al Kiddush Hashem? Well, we're not going to that right now, but we have a Kabbalah that person experiences a Tanug Elyon. doesn't hurt you. I mean, they're burning you. They're torturing you. It doesn't hurt you. They're not in that world. Not in that world. It's a different mitzvahs that they're in. But I didn't want this. I wanted to live a long life of being Michal Shabbos and eating tarfis. I didn't want to be killed because I'm a Jew. Why am I fighting? I love the Jewish people. I have to protect my family and my people. Okay, I'm in the army, but I know what this whole religious thing is that's happening to me right now. I didn't sign up for any of that. I just wanted to be a good guy. That's something else. If you killed Hakadosh Hashem, you're in a different club. You're part of a different reality. You were killed because you were a Jew. It's part of a different reality. You're taking it to something else. And when Chazal talk about that, there's no mechitza, that they're swept up into the highest place, into this place of Jews who were killed by Kiddush Hashem, that there's nothing that can compare to it, and all the oilimus, and this guy's going on this ride. So whoa, I was just like Shabbos dancing at what was called the Nova. I was dancing at a fest. I was with Michal Shabbos. I was dancing on Shmini Atzeres Shabbos at a music festival. I was going against the whole Torah, And there he is, flying with his tattoos and everything. It's going, come on, it's such a thing. And the B'Shas Ma'aseh, there was a Tanug Elyon of, because Be'emes, all that he ever wanted. Why did he go to the Nova Festival? Because he wanted to be together to dance and be b'simcha with other Jews. I was Shabbos. Well, I did. Shabbos doesn't care about it. But you ask him, what do you want? If you would ask him Erev Shabbos, what do you want? I want to go to the festival. I want to be Michal Shabbos. I want to go to the festival and dance with my friends. My girlfriend's going. My friends are going. We're going to have a blast. We're going to have music on Shabbos. Turns out that's not what he really wanted. He did want that, and he would have sworn, what do you mean that's not what I want? That's what I want, that's where I'm going. So he said, no, you're actually going to be Mizdabik to the Bari Olam. He said, I don't believe in the Bari. Trust me, you're going to Mizdabik the Bari Olam. And then later the guys are killed. And then he says, yeah, I guess that guy was right. Even though he doesn't know what it was in his life that was driving him and pushing him and so on. And so it is with a Jew. That's why at the end, Jews cannot be happy in the deepest way, the pneumius of who they are, with the house or with the whales and stuff like that. You can have some satisfaction with the Tanag Elyon they can't have. It's not shy.
They say there were a lot of FFPs in the festival.
There were, and I heard about some of them and I spoke to the mother of one of them.
These kids were connected.
They were connected and they were looking and they weren't finding it. And it's partially our fault, of course. But they were looking and so they wanted to be with other Jews and to have a good time. Have a good time. They wanted to have what they were missing when they were learning the Gemara. For whatever reason, didn't happen when he was learning the Gemara. So he's looking for that someplace else. So, but by somebody that's not Jewish that's going to Woodstock back then, he really was just looking for Woodstock. That's okay. Whatever he got out of that was his. He was satisfied and he had fun at Woodstock. So Gemara. But for the Jewish kid, it wasn't like that. That's why in California, the famous thing in Berkeley, when Shlomo Kalabach showed up at the music festival. When he showed up over there, he took home with him like a couple of thousand kids that followed him back to the hotel. I mean, it's not long ago. I was alive when this happened. Shlomo showed up there also, with all the, I don't want to say the names of the Tmeim that were performing, all these Mushchasim, but they were performing, and Shlomo came over there, and these were all kids that went to hear those Mushchasim, and they ended up at the hotel with Shlomo Kalbach, staying up the whole night Friday, hearing Ishbitz Torah and singing songs. That's what happened. Many of them came out with Shuv. It's just an example, but this is, so that's why the kid went to the music festival. I don't know if it was in Berkeley, it was in California someplace. That's why he went to the music festival. He went to get high and to hear something and to whatever it is.
Maybe a spiritual feeling, music.
Right, because the Yid wants to have a taste of Gan Eden. So he's looking for that Eidan, he's looking for that Oinig. So he doesn't know where to look. So he'll take whatever he can get. So if it means shooting up, he'll shoot up. If it means going to hear some song, if it means a girlfriend, whatever it is, just to get some Oinig. Because the neshama of a Jew comes to that world of Eidan, of Oinig Elyon. The neshama of a Jew is chalishing for that Oinig. And we'll try to satisfy it in countless ways. But at the end of the day, cannot experience the Tanaga Elyon. But the Ger Tzedek turned away the offer of the Vilna Gaon and opted for that moment of Dvegas. Again, why in Halacha? That's not for our discussion now. On page Pei Beis. V'advar muvu berambam in Hilchos Talmud Torah. The examples that he's using are from the Hilchos Torah, but we could apply them to anything else. Shekoshav Afal Pisha Mitzvah Lilmod B'Yom B'Layla Ein Adam Lomed Roiv Chachmos B'Layla, the famous Rambam in Hilchos Torah. Even though it's a mitzvah to learn day and night, nevertheless, the most of one's wisdom and the greatest can be accomplished after by learning at night. L'fichach Misha Rotza Lizkos B'Keser HaTorah. Whoever wants to be zeicher to achieve what's called the Rambam calls Keser HaTorah. Yizar b'chol leilosav, should be careful with all of his nights. Lo ya'aved afilu echad meher, not to lose any of his nights, wasting his nights, b'sheina, sleeping, v'achila, and eating, v'shasi, and drinking, v'sicha, v'chayetz and schmoozing and talking. Ella b'talmud Torah v'divrei chachma. That is a beautiful Torah from Rav Hutner and Tachi Yitzchak on this in Shavuos, on the union of Kisra Shel Torah and the Kesser Shel Torah, where a person takes that time which is a piyat teva, that time is designated for sleep, the night. It's a time of sleep, which is totally fine. A person needs to sleep, and somehow he transforms that time of reshus into optional time of learning of mitzvahs into a time of mitzvah, and that through this transformation, he's able to wear that which is called kisur shel Torah by using his nights, because the world teva does not use the night for that. He uses the night for sleeping, for eating and drinking and other things, and the person uses the night. He transforms that into the night into a chefzer shel mitzvah, and he now wears this which is called keser haTorah. B'yeshlayim b'lashon Rambam. So one needs to think about this. The Rambam, as you all know, is very, very careful with many thousands of varies after that with his words. There's no extra word, and there's no mistakes, and the Rambam's words, every single word, is exactly the sram that are written on a word of their own. So the Rambam says, why is he use such a lashon? It's called keser haTorah. Now, one of the great debates of Jewish history is, was the Rambam exposed to Kabbalah? That's one of the big questions, and there are many who believe that he definitely was, because there are many places in his writings where the only other place we find such a concept or such an idea, such a thing, is in the Zohar Kodesh. And in Kabbalah, it's the only place that we see such a thing. Now, the Rambam physically could not have had access to the actual Zohar Kodesh at that time yet. But that doesn't mean that there weren't teachings that were there. Of course, there were teachings since Moshe Rabbeinu. They're mostly very, very hidden and very few that were exposed to them. There are those who make a strong case, especially Rav Gershon Hench from Rav Zin, other tzaddikim, and Abarbanel, even in Nachlas Avos. He writes in the fourth paragraph there in Pirkei Avos, the parish of Abarbanel, he writes about the Rambam being at the end of his life, reading somebody who revealed to him the hidden wisdom and so on. And there's a lot of speculation regarding this, and there are many who are violently against any such suggestion that the Rambam had any shaykhs to Kabbalah. But one has to stop and to wonder why he uses the word keser over here. Now, it's true we do have that in Pirkei Avos. Keser Shem Tov, Keser Torah, there is such a thing as keser. But why the Rambam connects that davka to this act of learning Torah at night is a very, very interesting thing. More typical of the Rambam's language would be that he wants to be a Talmid Chacham. He wants to be a Chacham. Keser. This goes be Keser HaTorah. The easiest way to explain it is that the rak b'mahalach shel hakeser she'inyan hu masha odem es anig u'mislahit milumet Torah, that the Rambam was, of course, the Rambam was alluding to that which is called keser. And this person's rotzen and the einig that's connected to learning Torah is so profound that even that time of life where the rest of the world is sleeping, he stays up and pushes himself. He's completely bottle. There's no greater pleasure than him. You tell him, haven't you? It's already late. Why don't you go to sleep? Like the Vilna Gaon's Rebbetzin calling out to the room, Rebellia, you've been learning so much, you should take some time off. Maybe you can go to Orlando for a couple of days or something like that. The Vilna Gaon. This Miskal Torah, the way that the Get Tzedek went up in that fire of Kiddush Hashem, the Vilna Gaon and all the tzaddikim there in that fire of the Kesser of Torah. B'dargel Yonazu, tzarich shelo yehe lo shum shaychus linyani oineg acherim shel achila shesiyu shinu chadayim. So the oineg of that person is not the eating and drinking and sleeping that's normally associated with the night. Not to say that he doesn't get a little bit, he has to sleep a little bit, but whatever. But that's, it might not be during the night, he might sleep for a half hour during the day, whatever it might be. There are all kinds of stories. But that's not this person's einig. Because the oneg that is the fuel behind all of his vitzainis, all of those hours, and investing all of those kaiches into learning, the fuel that's behind it is that pleasure that he has when he's sitting with the sefer. This is why I'm up here at 2 a.m. This is why I want to be here in this sefer at 2 a.m. So that person, the Rambam interestingly calls that person as somebody who is wearing the keser of Torah. But it's an illusion, I believe, and so it seems the Mechaber believes, that it's an allusion to this midah that we're talking about, keser, which is Ratzon and Einig. That's a mitzvah. Next week we'll finish the conversation about Oneg, and we'll go into Yechida, which is Emunah, the Pnimi